Welcome to the CVC podcast, a humorous look at our faith and our culture. Recorded August 11th, 2017, to catch a Preterist. And now our hosts, Britton, Nick, and Jim. Welcome to the CVC podcast, guys. I have another confession. Sometimes I like to watch the Jimmy Swaggart channel.
Yeah, I'm entertained by Christian television.
Why?
Here's the thing with old Jimmy. Not to be confused with our illustrious host, Jim, but Jimmy Swaggart, you turn on his thing, and it's like if you have any experience in like a Pentecostal charismatic church or something like that, you just can't look away because it's all the old songs in exactly the same way. It hasn't changed in 35 years. It's just all there, and I can't look away from it. So I sit there and watch it, and I'll watch it, and then my wife will come in and give me this look like, oh my God, like horrified, like she caught me watching porn.
It's almost worse than porn.
Yeah.
And you can't look away from it either.
It's like that with the Gaithers with me. It's like the church
Yeah.
I grew up in. It's the same kind of music. And I'll just watch the Gaithers all day, sitting around singing songs while they, hang out in couches and chairs.
It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just entertaining for me to watch religious programming.
The way you described it reminds me of every car wreck I've ever driven past. You can't look away from it.
No.
You just have to look at it.
Yep, that's what it is. And
Yeah, but there's not as much tragedy at a car wreck.
oh man, Jimmy Swaggart is who he is, and I don't want to really get into his past, but man, it's just he's still going. He's just still going after.
You got to give these guys credit for just sheer willpower and denial of. That's where Trump learned it from.
Oh, okay.
We've
From
got
TV
him dead to rights this
80s.
time. Here he is on tape. Nah, I'm still running.
Yeah, no, this is all. It's fine. The Lord forgave me, and but see now you got Jimmy Swaggart's son Donnie going.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of they're priming him to take over this whole thing because Jimmy Swaggart's in his 80s. He's not long for this world, as it were. I don't think.
What's the Baker guy? Is that Donnie?
That's Jimmy Baker. That's Jim Baker.
Who's Jim Baker's son?
Jim Baker's son is Jay Baker.
Okay, I get all these.
Well,
pastors
we
and their
had two
sons
big
confused.
famous Jimmys.
Right, yeah.
Of the 80s with their own television.
Two big
things.
Jimmys.
Two big
Yeah.
Jimmys. And they both had similar falls from grace, as it were. But
You know who I saw? Was it his name Peter Popoff? Is that the guy?
you watch your mouth.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the guy
we're
who
talking
got
about
busted.
Jimmy's, right? Yeah.
He got busted, yeah.
He's selling miracle water on infomercials now.
Nice. I wish I had the goal to do it.
No wireless transmissions to pick up.
Yeah.
It's on my bucket list actually to see Benny Hinn live.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I want to
do that.
see if I can feel the energy when he swings his hand over my section
Man.
in the auditorium. I want to see if I can feel that Reiki power.
That's the thing. As much as I've always railed against some of this stuff and like my own personal post-Pentecostal world, like if I get into a service like that, it's there. I'm like,
The hand is up.
hand is up, and you're just like, oh, I can feel it.
I knew this guy. He ran a like a new age bookstore, right? And he did Reiki. He taught Reiki classes and stuff. And he was trying to teach me some of it. And just I'd go in and just chat with him. And he said, hey, you can say what you want about Benny Hinn, but I was at a conference and when he did that hand, waved the hand, the power, you could feel it.
Yeah.
And man, I don't know if that's power suggestion or what, but I still don't buy it, but I'd love to go.
Yeah.
I'd love to go.
Yeah, I would like to go.
See if I get the tinglies,
See if I can
Yeah.
do it. Man, so Nick, you found. Oh, we talked about GodTube last week.
Yeah,
and
we did.
What did you find on GodTube?
I found a website that mostly just links YouTube videos. It was a lot of just. One of them was this. The first video that was on there was this woman giving a speech about the bikini, and being the deviant that I am, I said, "Hey, she's cute. Let's see what she has to say." And it was this just her talking about how the bikini is. She used the song "Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny."
I was just thinking about that song.
She used that song and she used it as a like a launch pad for, I guess, I don't know why bikinis are immoral or whatever, and how she's immoral. and how she basically started her own clothing line, which to me just means she was shilling for it the whole time anyway, of like modest swimwear. Which
I've heard of this lady, if it's the same one.
The modest
like
mom
this,
bikini.
Is she in Arizona? Or?
I don't know. She's kind of like I think she was like an Asian lady that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This one was actually German, so
okay.
they're both women of international origins.
But
must be a connection between that and bikini hatred.
Yes. Well, it was a lot of that and just music. The comedy wasn't like the comedy section wasn't funny. It linked to a woman named Jeannie. Let me see. Her name's like Jeannie something. She's this Jeanne Robertson or something. She's a comedian, Christian comedian, and I didn't think she was funny. I mean,
is it because she's a woman, Nick?
I'm not going to admit that. Look, I will admit this, okay? I have been on a mission to find really funny female comedians that I like, because...
And they're out there.
There is that stereotype of, like, women comedian are not funny. And I'll admit I kind of fall into that camp a little bit, because for the majority of them, I haven't found them to be funny. But I also haven't found a lot of men funny, so there's that give and take. But I've been putting into my own Google Doc a list of these people, what I liked about them, and that kind of thing, to sort of, and I haven't really found, I have like five people on the list, and two of them were funny. So
I think the Holy Grail quest would be to find a funny Christian female comedian.
Yeah.
There's, I forgot her name, but there's one out there. If you've lived your life in church and you get all the jokes, then it's hilarious. But I forgot her name. See, she's not that memorable.
But Nick's right. I mean, I don't like as many male comedians as I do female comedians. It's so hard to find funny people these days.
Yeah.
We had to settle with us for the show.
Right. Yeah. So on GodTube, is it still? Is there still a bunch of preachers on it that are just uploading themselves?
Yeah, that's there. I didn't dive too deep into it because site layout was my biggest problem with it, because it was, you'd go in, you'd go to a section like, say, comedy or music or something, and then it was just this big list of artists that were incredibly popular, and then the list of the actual videos in the genre. So you had to like sift through all this, and it was the same list no matter where you went. It was just sort of like a header on a page, basically. You had to sift all the way through it to find the videos, and none of them really seemed that interesting to me. One of a kid who, the funniest video I saw was a kid who fell in a baptismal or something, and I mean, you know.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, should we put CVC on GodTube?
Sure. It would. I think the quality would be a step up.
All right. We've got a new place to host the podcast. Okay. Well, you mentioned PureFlix last week, and so I went and looked at it, and I was like, okay, because I've banged my drum a lot about not having good Christian art forms, and this is a potential outlet for Christian art, like Christian film. So I'm like, I think I need to sign up for it and check it out for the free trial period. But I looked at some of the videos on there, and if you're into like 1950s television, it's great. They got Father Knows Best, and you know, the typical 1950s was the best time ever for Jesus.
It's
and
like
all
Andy
that.
Griffith's show on there.
No, that's on Netflix right now. So
You can't get better than that.
yeah, so that's all there. So I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna give it an honest assessment, and I'm gonna, you know, because I know where my biases are. So I'm gonna try it to see if they have anything good. I'm not gonna judge any of the movies on their budget, but I am gonna judge it on their writing. Not even on the actors, because I don't feel like they can get, they're not going to pull in any big name actors, I don't think.
Stephen Baldwin.
Dean Cain.
He'll always be my Superman.
Yeah, that was the thing. Dean Cain was like in every movie. Did he find Jesus or did he find an acting niche?
Right.
I don't know.
And that's a good question.
I will say that I have seen. I watch a lot of podcasts or listen to them. Some of them are video, but Dean Cain shows up sometimes on one that I listen to, and he seems like a legitimately nice dude.
Yeah. I like Dean Cain.
Yeah.
He's Supergirl's dad.
Oh, okay.
The Supergirl.
Okay.
What channel is that on? The
CW.
Yeah.
I'm glad he keeps showing up in Superman-related things.
Well, the cool thing is that in Supergirl, Dean Cain is the Earth dad of Supergirl, and the mother is the actress who played Supergirl in the 80s movie.
That's cool.
The hot blonde.
So you got Superman
lady.
and Supergirl
That's cool.
from previous incarnations.
Yeah.
But this whole thing we're talking about PureFlix and GodTube, that really gets to the whole title of this podcast, doesn't it? Culture versus Christian.
Yeah.
Like what? Here we are dividing a line between like regular art and God art,
and that's
like,
what
do we have to have that line? Like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. One of the greatest fantasy series ever. He was a staunch Roman Catholic, but he didn't put a cross on the cover of his books.
Right.
It was just a part of his worldview.
Yeah.
And that led to great storytelling.
And that was my next question. Do we really even need Christian alternatives?
Or just good art.
Or just good art. Yeah.
Think about, there's a fantasy author who's contemporary. He publishes tons of books. His name's Brandon Sanderson. Mm-hmm. And he's a great writer, great storyteller. He's a really dedicated, as far as I can tell, Mormon. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't preach Mormonism throughout all his books. But his faith,
is expressed,
inspires, or is implicitly present in everything he writes, and the themes and everything like that. So I mean, there's that question of like, good art is just produced from what make up your core foundations.
Yeah,
so
I think the art should come first.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to set out and make art, I think you should worry about making the art.
You do it because you love it,
right? Like what you said with him, like with Tolkien, you're just trying to tell a good story, and then
because you want to tell a story.
Exactly.
And Tolkien was a philologist. He studied language, and so the Lord of the Rings started because you had this teacher who created an elven language just for fun. Wow. And then he wrote Lord of the Rings around it. So he was doing what he loved. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the name of the podcast, Culture versus Christian. Like, why is there this war? Yeah. And I get it in a sense. Paul says, don't have anything to do with maybe he doesn't say that, but the gist is that, right? The gist is this.
Paul said a lot of things.
Right. In the letters of John, right? He who hates this world. It's been a long time since I've read the Bible, so bear with me.
Last week.
Something about hating the world, right? But at the same time, that's kind of hating the world system, the setup, the one that takes advantage of people, the one that oppresses people. That's not. Hating the world is not the same as hating, good music or hating good art. Yeah. And that's where we get hung up, is because we think to make a movie, we got to preach Jesus 100%, just explicitly in your face. And we think to make music, we got to take everything that's done on the hard rock station and just tweak it and talk about, the sacred stuff. And to me, it just leads to chintzy art. It leads to there's this barrier between creation and production that's a filter of like, okay, here's what I want to do, but now I gotta turn it into this. And maybe it attracts people that aren't even sincere in their creation. They're just wanting to do something else. They might be sincere in their desire to be seen as a preacher, evangelist, or promoter of the gospel, but not so much as a musician or an author.
Okay, here's what we like to call, this is a new segment we have called, Do They Still Believe That?
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
And...
Do they still believe that?
Do they still... Okay, we'll have to come up with a really good la 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 kind of thing. Do you like the theme song music, by the way? Yeah, that was written by Jim. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So
It's a Christian theme song.
yeah, sure is. Step right up. So things that people still like. Did they still believe it? Do people still do this? Did they? Are we still doing purity rings?
Oh, good question. I really do think I've seen one recently.
Really? Yeah.
Because for me, South Park killed it. Like,
Yeah.
With the whole Jonas Brother episode, and I went, purity rings are dead now.
I think purity rings killed purity rings.
Well, I think sex killed purity rings.
It's like, did you say
That's like video killed the radio star.
Here's the thing for listeners who do not know, the purity ring was some thing that people did late 90s, early 2000s, I guess. Maybe
It was a Japanese horror movie.
Maybe they're still doing it.
The ring on PureFlix.
But the whole thing was they would have this little ceremony, usually with their daughters. And like the dad would be there, the family would be there. And it was like a wedding ceremony. And it was really, I've been to these. It was really odd. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say. It was just odd. And they like pledged to remain pure until their wedding day and all that kind of stuff. And here's the deal. I've known a lot of people who've done it. I don't know of anybody who went through with it.
Here's the thing.
Oh, they went through with it.
Well, they went through with it. How about stuck to it?
Here's the
Is
thing.
that right?
Here's the thing. When I was in youth, because you said it was,
Yeah.
you noticed it was mostly girls. For when I was in youth, it was everybody.
Really?
Oh yeah, and we had like classes, and we had to sit through this stuff, and then we had to make a pledge, and then we were given a ring, and then we instantly threw it away because it was something we were forced to do.
Right.
Like nobody wanted to sit there and do it. We already learned about
No one wanted to retain their virginity.
we already learned about all of the the sex stuff in elementary school at the time.
Yeah.
And then we get thrown into this room with the youth pastor who, I don't want to talk to the guy about any of that. I mean, that's a little weird. And then here's your ring, and then you promise not to have sex. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Were you allowed to hold hands with a girl?
I don't remember what we were and we're not allowed to do. Remember, I grew up listening to like metal.
Yeah.
And I got caught. I got yelled at because I listened to The Offspring. So
That's
probably
right.
wasn't allowed to do anything. I don't know. I got a lighter confiscated on a trip one time, not because I didn't smoke, just because I had a lighter on.
Because she was a pyromaniac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, growing up for me, youth group was basically just don't make out and don't do drugs. That was
Right.
years and years of that. Every lesson
And
revolved
then
around that.
And then they did lock-ins all
Right,
the time,
yeah,
where they
right.
put a bunch of
Lots of
makeout stories. Yeah.
They put a bunch of adolescents together,
I
and
thought
then the
that's
adults
what-
went, "I'm gonna go take a nap."
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I thought that's what it was for people to get together and just like meet a girl, like
Well,
someone's
if you're
friend.
gonna fornicate within the church.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Paul was talking
Let's
about.
lock them in.
When Paul said abstain from sexual immorality, he was talking about that. That was the thing.
Lock-ins. I bet lock-ins are still a thing. They were fun. I liked lock-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we did
Good,
one
it's an
a couple
excuse
years
to stay
back.
up all night.
Yeah, I hate them now as an adult, like as a in youth
because we like
ministry.
sleep.
Yeah,
It's
but
the one
it's,
escape from existence we get.
but I'm fortunate that we have a good youth group that doesn't seem all that interested in those sorts of shenanigans. So maybe I've got a couple more years before it breaks loose. Yeah, I don't
until
know.
it grows.
So this week in the Washington poll, our senior research analyst David Chapman sent us this link.
Leak. It's a leak.
It's a leak.
With Chap, it could be a leak. It may not.
Let's report every story. This just in.
This just in.
Exclusive.
Just
The
in.
CVC exclusive.
As of 5 a.m.
CVC
3
exclusive.
days ago.
Yeah.
The Washington Post poll. There was a Washington Post poll where they, what things were they saying? They were saying that it was
It says here that Republicans would be willing to postpone the next election until 2020
Right.
if Trump proposed to do it.
But why?
Because of it
he
had
seemed
to
to be
do
losing?
with it had to do with like voter fraud and proving that and illegal voting and so on and so forth, which the Washington Post says is not true, or it says large scale voter fraud is not true. I don't want to misrepresent it. but they would be willing to postpone it until 2020.
Yeah.
Which
Now,
what?
if you look through there to see how they got their poll numbers, they had a group of people from a certain data set.
1,300 is what it says.
1,300. And tell me if I'm wrong on any of this.
That puts a good finger on the pulse of the billions of people.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
America.
And then they sliced out all the Democrats and they just took the Republicans. I think Nick said that. And out of those numbers, it was like, is it 47%, or it's just give or take over the 50% number on these things. So half of the Republicans were polled in a small data set are crazy.
It says out of that they got 650 people who identified as Republican to answer it.
Yeah. So 300 people are nuts.
On the right or left, I don't listen to any polls anymore.
Right, I don't either. And and if you're reading there too, it says it is with weighted answers.
Yeah.
So
plus or minus 20% accuracy.
I don't know why you need to weight 300 people or 650 people. Like, that's pretty cut and dry data. Yeah. You don't need to spice it up, as it were. So what in the world? Well, I know what they're up to, but
and on top of that, I don't see how 300 people or 600 people can represent how many 50 million people or however many millions of people have voted for him. I hate it when they say Republicans believe this. It's like, I never got a call.
Right. Yeah. It's like, and if you say, well, the data's there, the data's really not there. 300 people. So, but sure, let's talk about these 300 people that have lost their mind.
Okay.
To say that they are okay with postponing an election. Like, I can't think of a situation where I would say, yeah, that's cool. Maybe if, I don't know.
Here are the two questions they asked. It said the survey asked two questions. It said the first one is, if Donald Trump were to say that the 2020 presidential election should be postponed until the country can make sure that only eligible American citizens can vote, would you support or oppose postponing the election? Which to me seems, that gives Trump way too much power, in my opinion, because at that point he could just say, just postpone it forever.
Right.
We've been trying to get this thing fixed for 30 years.
I know. And then the next one was, what if both Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress were to say that the 2020 presidential election should be postponed until the country can make sure that only eligible American citizens can vote? Would you support or oppose it?
It just feels like baiting to me. Because one, there's not a scenario where this could even happen.
Sure.
Well, I guess he could present the question, but there's no way he
for
could
all
legally.
of Congress and everybody to get on board with that.
No one's going to get on board with that. And we're probably not going to have a Republican majority after 2018.
We may not have a Republican Party.
We may not have a republic.
We might not have parties. So here's my question to you, because they bring up the voter fraud and that kind of thing. How easy was it for you to go in and vote? Was there a barrier to entry? Did they card you? Did they do anything?
No.
I had to show my ID.
Really? Mm-hmm. I walked in, said my name, and they go, at this address? I said, yep. Okay.
Wow.
That's what happened with me. Yeah.
So if you were somebody dead,
my little township is doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah. So if I walked in, I could walk in the next day and then be like, I'm so and so. Oh, from this address, totes. And it's like,
totes.
Yeah. It's not hard. I mean, voter fraud you can do it.
I think voter fraud has always been a part of American elections.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, it's
you might want to say it's American tradition.
Yeah, Democrat or Republican, it's been there.
Didn't the Democrats at one point in one of the many hidden tapes that came out during the whole cycle come out and talk about one of the guys was talking about how they've been busing people in for years to vote anyway. Yeah. So it's not like we didn't know that was
none
happening.
of this is new.
Man, and back when you had to, before anonymous voting, back when you had to get in a line for one or the other, people basically browbeat you into voting for their candidates. There were fights, there were threats. It's always been kind of a little sketchy, the whole voting process.
Yeah.
Politics by its nature is always a little orchestrated. Doesn't make it right, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we should act surprised.
Well, are you guys ready for the mark of the beast?
I've been ready since 1981.
Have you?
Yeah, since the day I was born.
This is kind of an old story now, but did you guys hear about this in Wisconsin?
No.
There's this company who has these small chips, and it would replace your little, the little thing that you have to carry around in your corporate office to like get indoors and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now you just conveniently put it in your hand for you. Mm-hmm. So, you go to the snack bar at work and, that kind of thing. So, so the first thing that happens when some technology like this comes up is
Stop his mouth, Lord. Stop his mouth. The very stones will cry out.
The doomsday prophecy folk.
The John Hagees of the world.
The John Hagees of the world are holding up their Bibles, and they're saying this is the beginning of the end, and
this is Jerusalem countdown number 7.
Yeah, they're ready for the mark of the beast, and they're like gonna. And I get if Christian, there's a lot of Christians who still hardcore believe in the rapture, and I'm not want to take that away from them, but that at the same time, every new piece of technology isn't the mark of the beast.
Don't take my rapture from me.
Don't take my rapture from me. I think something's going to happen at the end. I'm just not going to write it all down and say this has to happen like that. But,
right, but we've gotten to this point. We've evolved to it.
Yeah,
I think it's safe to say,
someone said we backslid to it.
We've grown up in a culture where the mark of the beast, that's what it is, where the rapture is going to happen. I grew up. If I walked into a room and nobody was there, I thought, did I miss it? Did I miss the rapture? We all had those miss the rapture moments. So, that being said,
I wish we'd all been ready.
Yeah, I don't really think in terms of the rapture now. I don't think in terms of Revelation being a end times, Kirk Cameron kind of thing. But the moment a chip comes out that they start implanting people, that's in me, man. And I'll be like, no, you ain't stamping me.
Yeah, and we work for large corporations, and so they could have this idea hey, why don't we do that? And to which I would say no, for a lot of reasons.
Is it forced? Is it voluntary?
It's voluntary
for now.
How it goes.
It's strongly encouraged.
It's
so more flair. I don't.
Yeah,
less flair.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't plan to work at the job I'm at my whole life. I'm not injecting
as much as I jump around, I'll have chips all the way up my arm.
Yeah, and they're going to have to go to your forehead.
Yeah,
that's where they go next.
You might as well just start tattooing ID numbers on our arms.
So that's
Well, that also leads into something that's not talked about a lot, but it's the idea that the end times prophecies, what everybody interprets as that, was fulfilled at the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. It's called preterism.
Yeah.
But I don't like to use the term preterism because it sounds like a crime, to catch a preterist. So
preterist.
I usually just say, some people think that the end times have been fulfilled in 70 AD.
See, okay, you've
lost. That's why I don't go to churches.
I don't know the word. The word has been lost on me.
It's anyway. So.
But yeah, and I'm actually reading a book right now by a guy named Paul Ellis, who is kind of like a hyper grace kind of guy in those camps, but I'm not through with the end. I don't know which way he leans, but he explores both. The title of the book is called AD 70, which is when the temple was destroyed, and a lot of and I'll agree, a lot of the things in Scripture, I think, do point to that instance, and not so much what happens at the end, but. It's an interesting thought to think that these end times prophecies have already been fulfilled in 70 AD.
Right.
All
I know is I'm not putting a microchip in my arm for a major corporation.
Yeah, we just grew up, it's been instilled in us too much. No matter what we think, it ain't happening.
For me, it's privacy, and we're running out of that.
Yeah, well, sure
and they don't tell you, they claim, it just... it just does the things with the door.
It does the thing with the thing.
The thing with the thing, the door, and the payment options or whatever. But are they
also know
packing
okay.
on anything else in
Yeah,
there?
say you
They
call
also
off.
know you're in Vegas when you said you're sick.
Say you're sick, and all of a sudden you want to take a trip
Yep.
to the nearest national park, or the nearest zoo, or
'Cause
the nearest theme park.
It's an RFID chip. Is that what that is?
I'll just put my arm
Those
in an
are the same
RFID
things
blocking wallet.
I was gonna say they put those in tires now to
Right.
I mean,
There's
no.
and granted,
They're just going to start
RFID.
shooting them everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, RFID doesn't have that much range, but I don't know. I'm not a slippery slope kind of a guy, but
My dogs have RFID chips in them or something.
yeah. I mean, our dogs aren't going to heaven.
Because they took the mark
They
of the
took
beast.
the mark. We
Yeah.
forced it upon them.
They can neither buy nor sell at the markets without the mark of the beast.
Well, fellas, we've done it. We've wasted 30 minutes of time.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we just want all the listeners out there to hold us up in your prayers, because Lord knows we
We're
need it.
narcissistic like that. We don't need anything. We just like you praying about us.
I want extra.
Your wallets may decrease, so mine may increase.
We'll see you all next time.
Bye.